when the question says explain, that means you have to tell the reason why water is pulled or absorbed into root hairs. Only talking about the movement from soil to root hairs and stop. Don't talk about the movement upside the upward the plant or other sides. So here you have 3 marks for this question. 3 marks. So the first mark, I'm gonna go to the water moves by osmosis or diffusion, but I prefer to say osmosis. By the way, osmosis is the diffusion of water. So either you say by osmosis or water diffusion as water diffusion together, or osmosis. This is 1 mark. From the area of high water potential, which is the soil, to the area of low water potential, which is the root hair cell. This is the 2nd mark, through partially permeable membrane. This is the 3rd mark. Let's go to this. Here's a potometer that it can be used to measure the rate of transpiration. Now, we know that potometer is used to measure rate by calculating the distance of the bubble over time. So here, most of the water taken by the plant replaces water loss in transpiration. As we know that transpiration causes a transpiration stream. Without a transpiration, so there's no pull of water from the soil. So transpiration is very important to pull the water from the soil up to the plant. A student used a potometer to investigate the effect of wind speed. So whenever we see to investigate the effect, this is going to be the independent variable that we should change. Independent variable that we change. By leafy shoot, as the shoot absorbs water into the air bubble moves upwards. Okay. Here are the results. Here is the table with the results and the headings. This is the wind speed, the first column, distance traveled by the air, the time taken for the distance to travel, and this is the rate. So the question says calculate the rate of water uptake at the highest wind speed. The highest wind speed here, which is 8. As we know, since we want to change and to investigate the wind, so we should have different speeds of the wind. As I mentioned in the guideline, how can we change the wind? By using fan. We can change the speed of the fan, okay? Here we can measure the rate. Rate equals D over T for potometer. So here is the distance is 40 over 20. It is going to be 40 over 2 is going to be 20. Now it is acceptable to write it as this, but I prefer to write it like the heading here, to write it 20.0 as the numbers written here. Okay. Describe the effect of increasing wind speed on the rate of water uptake. Suppose you don't know that wind is directly proportional with rate. By looking at the information here, what do you see? As wind increases, what happens to the rate? Look at the rate. Also the rate increases from 0.4 with no wind till 20. The rate becomes 20 when the speed of the fan is 8. So we have 2 marks here. The first mark about the correlation, if it is inversely or directly proportional. So it is directly proportional. The second mark, already it is mentioned in the question that use figures. Don't forget this, please, my students. Whenever you ask to describe using data from the table or from a graph, you have to use figures. You have to manipulate figures. You have to use numbers. So here we mentioned at 0 it was 0.4, then when it becomes 8, the highest one, it becomes a 20. What is the relation between 0.4 and a 20? It is 50 times greater. Okay? Let's go to the next one. State 2 environmental factors other than wind speed that a student should keep constant. These are the controlled variables. These are the controlled variables. In order to keep them constant, let's look at the factors that affect transpiration. The factors, transpiration, by the way, is an evaporation of the leaf. So the effects, the conditions that affect a transpiration are wind, light intensity, humidity, temperature. So if we change wind, we should keep light intensity, humidity, temperature the same. So you choose two of them. Now, some of the water absorbed by the plant is not lost in transpiration. So here the question asks you to give other functions or the role of water in the plant. Here you can say it is used for chemical reactions. That is very important for chemical reactions in the cytoplasm. Also, you can say it is a raw material for photosynthesis. As we know, it is one of the reactants in photosynthesis equation. You can say to keep the turgidity or to the shape of the cell. You have many answers. Now, water moves through the xylem to the tops of very tall trees, such as giant redwoods of North America. The movement of water in the xylem is caused by transpiration. Explain how transpiration is responsible for the movement of water in the xylem. This is a very important point. I want to talk about it. Whenever you ask about the movement of water, there are two cases. The first case, either you asked about the effect of a transpiration, such as this question, and the second one, you are asked about how water, describe the water movement, how water moves up the plant. Okay, but let's focus on this now since we are talking about this question. When you are asked to talk about how transpiration, explain, to give reason how transpiration affects the water movement, you should say that when water is lost through mesophyll or stomata of the mesophyll or stomata on the leaf, then there is low water potential, less water potential in the plant than in the soil. So water moves from the area of low water potential, from the area of high water potential, which is the soil, to the area of low water potential. Okay, here is 2 marks. The third mark actually goes to that cohesion of water molecules. That water molecules stick together. They move as a continuous column of water. Here it is rejected to talk about adhesion. Okay, don't talk about adhesion, because here transpiration pulls the water and the water moves as a continuous column. So whenever you asked about explain how a transpiration is responsible, only you talk about water potential. That water potential becomes less in the plant than in the soil. So the water moves from soil, from the area of high water potential to low water potential to the plant by osmosis. And the cohesion of water molecules, how they stick together, okay, pulling each other as a continuous column of water. That's it. Now, G, plants that live in hot to dry environments show adaptation for survival. State 3 structural adaptations of these plants that are called xerophyte plants, or as I mentioned in the guidelines, that these plants live in hot dry climates such as deserts. So they have many adaptations. You can mention 3 of them. One of them, that they have reduced leaves or leaves reduced into spines, either spines or small surface area of the leaves. Some of them have leaves, but the leaves are so small. Others, such as cactus, don't have leaf. Cacti do not have leaves. Their leaves actually are reduced into spines. So this is one adaptation. The second adaptation, you can say that they have long root system. They have long roots in order to look for water. You can say also they have shallow roots to take water or to absorb it as fast as possible. You can say fleshy, succulent stems such as cactus. You can say sunken stomata. It's very important to know what sunken means. Sunken, it means hidden stomata. The leaves actually are rolled leaves. When they are rolled, they hide the stomata between them. So the humidity is great and the wind cannot pass across these stomata. So they keep water inside, so the water cannot evaporate out.